Hello and welcome to another edition of Community Conversation. Oh, Beth's already here. I should have clicked on this. Um, I should have clicked on this before. Beth, I'll read your comments in 1 second. Hello, good evening. It is Ethan. It is I. It is me. It is Tuesday, December 12th, 7 p.m. on the East Coast. This is Community Conversations. I'm your host, Ethan. These are my Hanukkah antlers, obviously. So anyway, if you're here, say hello. Let me know where you're from. Well, as always, we'll get started in just a couple minutes. I don't know why things are updating on my computer because that just slows things down. Let me read Beth's comment. Can you believe I had a setback? My brother was sick and he was negative for COVID, but OCD doesn't believe it. He does everything fast. Maybe he didn't test right, so I've been scared to come out of my room. Coming out little by little, I asked him to stay in his room and I wear a mask. I'm so tired of being scared of COVID. I would probably stay in my room for 2 months. If he tested positive, I keep food in my room just in case. I'm kidding. All right, Beth, we can definitely talk about that for sure. Hey, Hank, it's nice to see you. Maybe your first time here. Madison, have some friends in Madison. Nice and warm this time of year. Matt Bannister in the house. It's only the glorious UK because you are there. Love, Lana. Duluce, haven't seen you in a minute. It's good to see you. If you're just joining us, we'll get started in about 35, 40 seconds. So please feel free to say hello and let me know where you're from. Hello, Tekete. Yeah, I have that right. Nikki Bradley from Dublin. There she is. Hello, dear Nikki. I hope you're well. Hope everyone is doing well. I know we did a town hall last week on the holidays and the hey, Robert. And the difficulties that we can face during the holidays. And so I hope everyone is easing into this last part of the year with some peace and serenity for 2 minutes since we've been on. So let me get through the housekeeping and then we can get into some conversation. And we can definitely talk about it, Beth. So my name is Ethan. I'm a national advocate for the International OCD Foundation. This community you shouldn't eat chocolate before these. This community conversation is intended to serve as educational content and is not intended to replace therapy. For treatment-related questions, please be sure to work with your local provider or contact a local clinician. The IOCDF is not a crisis hotline. If you are in crisis or ever feeling suicidal or unsafe, please go to your local ER or call 911 or the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988. As always, we want to create a safe space and be kind and respectful to everyone. At the end of the day, we are all here to support one another. And always note that this is being broadcast on several social media platforms and it's being recorded. So keep that in mind as we talk about sensitive topics and things like that. Yeah, I know. I totally need to work on my accent, Nikki. I shouldn't have. I was feeling brave and daring and I thought I'd go into it. But anyway, let's jump right in. So Beth left some comments at the top, basically talking about a setback. Brother was sick and I had him test. He was negative for COVID, but OCD doesn't believe it. He does everything fast. Maybe didn't do the test right. So I've been scared to come out of my room. I've been coming out little by little. I asked him to stay in his room and I wear a mask. I'm so tired of being scared of COVID. I would probably stay in my room for 2 months if he tested positive. I keep food in my room just in case. I'm getting a small microwave for my room. All right. So, well, I already see that the people are weighing in and thoughts. I just want to quickly read some. Usually their insight is much better than my insight. Hank at 7:02 p.m. wrote, Beth, I was OCD with COVID before treatment. Now I have to think maybe he did, maybe he didn't. The only concrete fact you have to go on is the test. It's great advice, right? We use the facts that we have and everything else we assume, that's the situation until we know different. And so I love that. I love that advice. Hank, that's great advice. Rocking the reindeer antlers. These are Hanukkah antlers, Matt. Hanukkah antlers. Obviously, we celebrate everything. We love everything. Hey, Nathan Rice in Athens. Good to see you. Duluth wrote, sorry about what you're going through, Beth. Hope you can find the strength to fight through it and get to the other side. And then Beth, Tekete wrote, Beth, I took your advice and I went to the shop and walked through everybody. I went out to the back gate and then went and stood on the street. I even walked the whole way without headphones. Beth, Beth in the house being the motivator. That's awesome. Wrote, thank you for your ideas. I hope that gives you some hope with your COVID situation. And don't forget, you know how to manage yourself better than anyone else. Okay, so first of all, thank you for all the love and support for Beth. It's all good insight and good to know. Miss Beth, here's the deal. It is never a straight line. And I know we know this, but it's always good to remember and remind ourselves, because it's so hard to remember in the moment, right? Like in the moment, and I'm not going to speak for you, Beth, but at least this is how I feel. You've been on an upward trajectory. You've made great decisions. You're like, you've got your momentum, and then something pops up that you weren't expecting, feels really out of left field, and it throws you, right? And you have what I like to call a blip. It's a blip. It's not a relapse. Most of the time, it's not a relapse. It is not being weak or making poor decisions. It is the nature of OCD. So in your case, your brother is sick. Maybe COVID, may not be COVID. Took a test was negative, but lots of what ifs around whether the test was right or wrong or accurate or not accurate. First of all, Beth, well, you just said that road to recovery is not a straight line. There's going to be setbacks. I know this. Okay, so that's the first thing. But knowing it and giving yourself lots and lots of love and self-compassion are two different things. So I think, and everybody here would agree, you've done such an incredible job of navigating, getting out of that sort of rut that you were in, and making really amazing wins and huge steps to make progress. And this is understandable why this would be so triggering. Makes total sense. And I think we can make room for that and give yourself lots of self-compassion and grace for being thrown a little bit. That's how OCD behaves. It latches onto any opportunities it has. And what a great opportunity for OCD. Oh, there's a sickness in the family. Could be COVID. Test could be wrong, could be expired, could be a million other things. Don't trust it. Here are all the reasons. So that makes sense. And so we always want to give ourselves lots of compassion and room for those times that things come out of left field and push us back on the roller coaster. But this process is always, or I should say many times, 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And that's all this is a blip. And so, Beth, my suggestion is I love that you've started to come out of your room. I think wearing a mask is valid. Nobody's asking you to, flood yourself. I think this is a really intense exposure in terms of being sick, and if it's COVID, if it's not COVID. I love Hank's advice, which was essentially, we only have to go by what we know, right? So the rest of it is stories that we're telling ourselves. So what we know is he tested, it was negative. And so with that information, how do we want to live our life? And I love that. Let's see. So Beth wrote, so Friday it goes back to normal. Told my brother to come out while I am out. I will wear a mask, but still an ERP for sure. And it can be little steps. You don't need to be judgy or referee. This totally is understandable and makes sense. And I think that you navigating this, with the support of everyone is really beneficial. I think you're doing an awesome job. I would encourage you, Beth, to continue to challenge yourself. I don't remember if you said you're going to get a microwave in there. I'd be wondering if a fun challenge would you be willing to hold off on the microwave? Because we could easily use that as a way to avoid going outside, or at least going out of your room, and the goal is to keep you not stuck in your room. And so, is that at all an opportunity to maybe not put a microwave in there, so you do have to go out to heat up food and things like that? Yeah, Hank, I haven't seen you, Hank, here before, but welcome. Maybe you have been here, and I apologize if I don't remember. But I think Hank and I are on the same wavelength in terms of not trying to give yourself more opportunities to avoid easier. Of course, you do what's best for you, but we love you, Beth. We know you'll get through this. It can be messy. It doesn't have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination. There is no perfect to this. Oh, Summer's in the house. Hey, Summer. So yes, I think I appreciate you sharing, and you've totally got it. And yes, absolutely. 7:10 p.m. Beth Carducci. This could be a lesson. Beth Lethen. This could be a lesson for others. There are going to be days that you have setbacks. Getting back into the game is what is important. And that's, I mean, gosh, that is such an important reminder for all of us is OCD can get loud at any point. Good stress, bad stress, just because it feels like it. It's nothing that you did. It's not it's disorder, and that's kind of the nature of the disorder, right? And I always use the analogy: individuals with diabetes or MS or other chronic illnesses, they can be doing everything right and working their skills and tools and taking their medication and working out, and things can still flare up and make them ill. And OCD is no different. So the question is, okay, once that happens, how do we respond and react? And so I think that's great insight, Beth. And yeah, I would challenge you to maybe pause on the microwave and see if you can maneuver away from this, and get back little baby steps. But thank you for sharing. Hank wrote at 7:11 p.m. I was severe OCD 3 years ago. Went to Rogers Behavioral Health for a year, different levels of treatment, and now just trying to keep the course. That's it. Just continue to build. I always say more good days than bad, and just keep on keeping on using our skills and tools. Take a Tay wrote, I'm going to see family for Christmas. I haven't seen them in over a year due to OCD avoidance. Have you got any advice? Yeah, for sure. I'd actually be interested in specifically what you were avoiding around going to see your parents. Contamination, or your family, I should say. Was it contamination? Was it being triggered? Was it, out of fear that they might see your OCD? If you wouldn't mind elaborating a little bit on why you were avoiding going to see your family, and then we can definitely talk about it. Summer Contreras with some good news today. 7:11 p.m. I finally landed a job, and plus I was offered a volunteer research position in an anxiety and OCD lab. That's awesome. That is really, really, really awesome. Congrats on the work. Congrats on the volunteer research position. I can't wait to hear more about it. Summer Contreras, one of our IOCDF advocates and friends. That's super awesome. You should be insanely proud of yourself. And I know myself, and I'll tell Katie if she's not on, we're all very proud of you. That's awesome. Way to go. And thank you for sharing, Summer. Thank you, Take. So at 7:13 p.m., I have pure O. So when intrusive thoughts attack family relationships, I completely shut down and I refuse to involve them in that process. Okay. So yeah, I definitely have thoughts. So I have a couple. I have more questions, honestly. Hey, Lee is in the house. Good to see you, Lee, all the way from Australia. So she's tomorrow. Welcome from the future. That's very exciting. Well, first of all, Beth left a comment, 7:13 p.m. on your comment, which was, take a tay. Wow, good for you. I am grateful I can be with my brother. Last 3 years I lived alone, didn't even put a tree. Avoidance from your family or avoiding the holidays. Okay, she was asking more specific. So, I have thoughts. I think that the intrusive thoughts and the specifically that attack your family relationships, I'd be curious in what way they attack. The shutting down I completely relate to. I'm gonna keep kind of trying to boil this down a little bit, if that's okay, which is when you say you refuse to involve them in that process, what does that mean exactly, if you don't mind sharing? Because I know what you're getting at, and I want to give you some good suggestions, but I'm curious. So obviously the intrusive thoughts, they attack your family relationships. You don't have to share in what way if you don't want to. But when you say I refuse to involve them in that process, does that mean that you're not comfortable telling them what's going on and what you're experiencing, and you feel stigmatized by that? Do they stigmatize you or make you feel uncomfortable in that way? Because you shut down, they think that you're acting a certain way and you feel bad about that. I'm just curious because, we talk about during the holidays, obviously it's a very challenging time for many of us around expectations of how we should act and how we should feel. So it sounds like there's some of that happening too. But I'd love to give you some insight. Just had a few more clarifying questions. So feel free to leave a comment and we'll finish up the conversation on that front. Lee says hi from the future. This is so exciting. What are the winning lottery numbers, Lee? Hank asked how the weather's tomorrow. I agree. Um, Mike Sizemore, so common to feel like you're the only one with this condition. Yes, it is. This condition has a amazing ability to make you feel alone, and in reality, that is not the case, as you can see by everyone here support, and even though you feel like you're the only one with your thoughts and your flavor of OCD, in reality, it is not the OCD that is special. It is you. Um, Hubert at 7:14 p.m. wrote, "The thing that scares me in OCD the most is the realness of the thoughts while being in stress. It is incredible how creative your mind can be." I'm going to jump right back to that because I have some thoughts. Selwyn, also from Australia, in the house. Haven't seen you for a minute, Selwyn. It's good to see you. So take a day at 7:15 p.m. and I appreciate you elaborating so much. It's family specifically I can't cope with visual or worded intrusion. Sorry. And when I used to live with them, I refused to leave my room until I could hear they were either not home or I can't see them. Okay, understood. So first of all, um, a huge congratulations for going to visit your family. In light of that, it sounds like that's a very challenging, um, or it's going to be very challenging. I definitely have some thoughts on this. So I'm assuming that you're going with some skills and tools about how to navigate this. Obviously, OCD is ego dystonic. In other words, it is not what you want. You probably value your family, you want to be around your family, and OCD makes that really complicated. So the first thing I would do is consider that OCD may show up. Okay. So I think the first piece of that is understanding that OCD may make appearance and most likely may make an appearance in some way. And let's not hope for a perfect visit, meaning in the sense that don't try to be afraid of the OCD saying hello, right? Because when we're kind of like, it's not going to be there, it's going to be perfect, I'm not going to have to deal with it. Um, yes, as I said, it's my Hanukkah antlers. Hey, Bree, it's good to see you. Um, So I think the first thing is like setting expectation. So if we're going to go to your parents' house, we know that our family's house, we know our OCD is significantly triggered um, by them being around. Then let's anticipate that it may pop up. And since we're going to anticipate that it may pop up, B, how are we going to feel and how are we going to respond, right? So we're probably going to have thoughts and they're going to be uncomfortable and we're going to feel anxiety around that and that's going to be uncomfortable. So then what does that mean? What do I do with those things? The first thing is that giving yourself lots of self-compassion around these feelings, right? We know it's OCD, it feels real, it feels icky, but making room to allow yourself to experience your feelings and emotions, right? And then recognizing that it is okay to not be okay and to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? So I'm going to read your other comment. They've seen my compulsions and struggling with my tics before. I feel like I'm forcing them to let me cope around them, but I hate using loving relationships to get better when OCD latches to them. So there's a lot of guilt here, and there's some shame here, and there's some um, I think shame and guilt are the best ways to put it. Um, and you're feeling, maybe you don't want to burden them with this, and you feel like that you're impacting uh, how they're feeling and their experience. Here's the thing, we can't be responsible for other people's feelings because we aren't responsible for other people's feelings. We're not responsible for other people's actions. We are only responsible for our actions and our focus and our behavior. So, great point too, Hank. And that is what they're there for. And hopefully you have an understanding family that can understand, what it is you're going through. You also don't owe them explanations. I think that many of us feel like we owe an explanation of why we're behaving a certain way, what we're thinking, what it is, isn't. I think to go in with the expectation that OCD will probably make an appearance, um, to go in with the understanding that you will give yourself lots of love and self compassion when it does, to go in with the expectation that You don't owe family the details of your experience. You can simply say, if they know you have OCD, you can simply say, I'm really challenging my OCD right now. Family is so important to me. I'm not going to let OCD dictate what I do and don't do, especially around this time. So I am here. I may not seem that comfortable at times. That's just my OCD doing its thing, and I'm doing the best I can. Right? You can keep it broad. Don't be afraid to communicate. You don't have to. You don't have to get into details about the specifics of your OCD. It sounds like, and Hank is touching on this. Hank wrote, have you talked to them before? Maybe getting their views on it would help. I'm assuming you've had some conversations around just based on the fact that they've seen your compulsions and struggling with the tics and feel like you're forcing them to let me cope around them. There's also a difference between let's play with that word a little bit, because there's existing with it, there's coping with it, there's thriving with it. You choosing to go there, to not avoid and face OCD, that's a huge win. And that's very different than, oh, they're going to see me dealing with that. Like, I would reframe the experience rather than I'm going to go and they're going to see me struggle with my OCD. It's I'm going in spite of my OCD, and I'm going to resist and fight despite being challenged. Is it going to be perfect? No. Can it be messy? Yes. Right. But let's reframe what this looks like. This isn't you going there for the holidays and you're going to potentially ruin it for them because you're being, selfish. It's the opposite. It's you, after not going, choosing not to avoid, challenging your OCD, not coping, but thriving. You're being assertive. And that's extremely powerful and extremely motivating and not easy. Right. So I think if you've talked to Hank's point, if you've talked to your family about your OCD, if they're aware that you have it, I don't know what level they are, but to be able to go and say, I want to be with you over the holidays. It's important to me. It's not important to my OCD, but it's important to me as a human being. So I am here, and I'm not going to be perfect, and I may struggle, but I'm going to make the most of this opportunity while I'm here. And please be patient with me as I navigate this. And yeah, yes, my family are super respectful. It makes me feel worse for relying on them. I know it's silly, but I feel like OCD is the worst thing ever, but also see it as their problems deserve much more attention. Okay. So yeah, there's lots of shame and lots of guilt, and that is totally valid. I think everybody here has experienced that to some degree. And I hear what you're saying, but give your parents more credit. We also never compare pain. Okay. Nobody's issues are more important or less important than yours. Right? Your experience is your experience. Their experience is their experience. Their challenges are their challenges. Your challenges are your challenges. We don't compare. It's not helpful to compare. Whether somebody lost their purse or somebody is dealing with cancer, they're in their reality dealing with their issues, and those are completely valid. Right? But I would encourage you, Tay, to let go of this idea that, you were a burden and being a more, um, I don't know why I'm having trouble. I love that, Bree. Comparison is the thief of joy. That is so true. But I would go with the understanding that your parents are going to be so happy to have you there after not having you there, and embracing you for who you are and how you come and where you are in that moment. And you try to believe that and sit with that and understand that yourself, to be okay with that, to be at peace with showing up however you are, wherever you are in your process. I love that your family is supportive and super respectful, and that means you can have honest conversations. And let's see, I'm just catching up as you go. You lastly wrote, I know you're right, but let's reread that again. I know you're right. No, I'm kidding. But I struggle to adjust to not having all the information to deal with the situation because there are triggers. You know what, though? We don't always have all the information. I mean, Beth was just minding her own business and her brother got sick, right? We're doing the best we can in the moment. This is not perfect. Try to let go of the idea of a perfect trip. Try to let go of I need all the information. I need to know exactly what's going to happen. I need, pardon my cat's tail. I need to know all the skills and tools. This is a process. This is a marathon. This is not a sprint. This is your first time going back to your parents' house during the holidays after some avoidance. It's going to be messy. And I don't mean messy like horrible. It's just, it's not going to be perfect. So give yourself grace, give yourself compassion, give yourself room to experience the experience. And you're in a very fortunate situation where you have supportive parents. A lot of folks don't. So you can be open and communicate with them and keep it broad. It doesn't need to be specific. You don't have to confess. You don't owe it to them to speak the details of your intrusive thoughts and obsessions. Simply saying, when you're having a moment, it's a little tough. My OCD is kind of loud right now, but I'm here and I'm doing the best I can. And they'll be so glad you're there. And give yourself permission to be however you are in that moment. Hopefully that was helpful. I think you've got it. If you just grant yourself some self-compassion, they want you there. They love you. They want you around them. I think that you challenging your OCD is such a huge win. That's enough. Be enough. Be enough for where you are. So awesome. And I can't wait. Please, next community conversation in January, take a day. If you're available, I'd love to hear how your trip goes. In additional advice, by the way, is, if you find yourself stuck in your head, you can do some grounding exercises, like noticing things around you, the five senses, looking at colors, diving into conversation. I know it can feel so irresponsible to ignore the obsessive thoughts, and compulsing feels like the responsible thing to do. But if you're with family and you find yourself stuck in your head, as uncomfortable this may be, engage in a conversation, play a game, watch a movie. It doesn't matter how many times you get pulled away. It's how many times you come back to the present moment that counts. So if you come back 1,000 times in a night, that's a win, right? So try and use opportunities to be present when you're with family. If you're eating a meal, taste the food, feel the food, it tastes good, all of those things. And that's amazing. It's first sober Christmas. So you have a lot going on. You have a lot. This is a multifaceted thing, right? So let's not go expecting to do this perfectly. Let's not go expecting to be perfect. Let's expect to go being exactly where you are in this moment, understanding this is a process, giving yourself lots of self-compassion, feeling free to communicate how you're feeling with your family, and just being grateful to be with them and them grateful for being with you. I saw a comment up above. I'm going up just quickly. Mindy Scheffler, 7:24 p.m. How do you respond to a member who says you are not getting better and you need to be in a hospital? A member, I'm just wondering, like a member, like somebody in the community or a professional. I mean, so yeah, if you could answer that, Mindy, be more specific. I'm assuming a member in the community. I just want to before I weigh in specifically. But the short answer, I'm going to assume it's a member in the community. Is they don't know you or your story? I mean, is it a friend? Is it a dear friend? Is it just somebody who's like, I've observed this, and and you need to be a family member? Okay, gotcha. So this is a great question, and I think it depends on some things. Obviously, if you're an adult, I think that it very much depends on the relationship to that family member, how close you are, whether you live with that family member or not live with that family member, and how much education and understanding that family member has around OCD, right? So, how does your OCD manifest? Are you currently in treatment or therapy? These are rhetorical questions. I'm not directly asking you, though. Feel free to answer if you want to. But, people that don't necessarily or you can just do what Lee says. One of my favorite Grayson quotes from this year's conference: "They should all F themselves." Valid. Um, most individuals on the outside don't understand OCD, the disease, the disorder, and can identify the progress. Hey, Chad, good to see you. Thank you. I appreciate it. They're my Hanukkah antlers. Didn't you know? Um, so the first thing we want to do is take everything with a grain of salt. I think it's very challenging to see, to know or understand progress. And really, the only person that you should be paying attention to is your therapist or professionals that you're working with. Um, no CD remuneration about health and my anxiety, how I appear to others. Um, so as far as your family member goes, they're not OCD experts, and you know where you started and where you're at now. Whether you need a higher level of care. Oh, no CD therapy now. No, that's perfect. Whether you need a higher level of care, that's a conversation between you and your therapist. you know and this is also a process, and a lot of times family members and parents think it's going to be super simple and easy, like you go to the doctor, you get a medication, in a week you're better. This is a challenging therapy is challenging. This is a challenging disorder. And if you're finding that your family members are kind of insensitive to the process, or don't necessarily you know see the changes or whatever, then there's a couple things you can do. The first thing is you can sit them down calmly and educate them if you feel that's necessary. Um, Beth makes a good point. The other, Beth wrote, "Oh my, you take on the whole family's happiness. That's exhausting." Um, sorry, I was reading. So that's one piece of it. The other piece is, they are know-it-alls. Okay. So yeah, I think that having a calm, um, direct conversation of, I'm working with a professional. You know, OCD may not look like the way you think it looks like. It's a slow process. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And I'm following the directions of my therapist. And until I have, I know more. This is where I'm at right now, and that's it. If you live with them, that is obviously a little bit more challenging situation. They're around you all the time, and I can definitely give you some tools and skills to navigate your family. There's also a really good town hall that we did last month, I guess. Can I be your dad? Oh my God, am I that old? No, I can't be anybody's dad. I have antlers. It would be an honor to be your dad. Um, I would be Efkin Senior. I like it. It's a good ring to it. Um, But Mindy, yeah, it depends. It depends if you're living with them or not, and obviously, if you're living with them, that comes with its own sort of baggage. The other piece of it is, I'm not sure how no CD therapists work, but you can always include family members, in a session. Um, I encourage that, especially if you're living at home, and anybody that you interact with that can understand and learn more. And if they're know-it-alls, hearing it from another professional sounds differently than maybe from their family member. So I am a huge proponent of involving family in therapy. I know it was completely game changing for me, and it is for lots of folks. But I think that the most important thing is, obviously, we're very emotionally tied to this and emotionally charged. So when family members come at us, quote unquote, right, it's very easy for us to sort of get emotional or angry or frustrated. And that's family or friends or whatever tend to use that against us. Like, oh, look, you're being ill, you're being OCD right now. And so I would take opportunities when you're not triggered to say, hey, I'd like to have a conversation with you if you don't mind. So here's what I'm doing, and here's what this looks like. And this is a process. And, and I'm, and if you have, and you can even talk to your therapist about this, do you have suggestions on ways I can talk to my family about it? Would it be beneficial to say, well, before I was taking hour showers and now I'm doing 30-minute showers. And although that may not seem like anything to you, that's actually a huge win, right? And so sort of helping identify the wins. But at the end of the day, beyond making your life easier, their discomfort about it isn't on them. It is on them. But hopefully that gives you some thoughts and ideas. You can also direct them to the IOCDF website. There's so many good resources for parents and caregivers and families. And if you find need to practice not to ask for reassurance. And yeah, well, that's a great point, right? So if you're asking for reassurance, they may see that and go, well, you're in therapy, you shouldn't be doing it anymore, right? And that again comes to the like you miss the lack of understanding around how this process works. You don't go to therapy twice and then suddenly it all goes away. It's a very systematic process. In fact, Mindy, if they're having trouble understanding why it's slow or thinking that you should be so much better already, use the gym analogy with them. I don't know if your family works out, but throw at them and say, "Let me ask you a question. If I, if you were overweight and wanted to go to the gym and get in shape, and you went for 1 week, would you come back and be 40 pounds lighter and completely ripped and ready to take on the world? No, you wouldn't. It takes months and commitment and systematic change in diet and exercise and sleep to start to change your body to feel and be a certain way. And treatment is exactly the same way. ERP treatment is exactly the same. You don't do ERP treatment twice and suddenly obsessions and compulsions disappear and we're done asking for reassurance and all of those things, right? It's a process. So I think I love the exercise analogy because I think it's right on point. We're exercising our brains, and you can't do it over a week or two. It's a process to get there. So, but if you have other, I'll give out my email at the end. If you need other tips, suggestions, skills on how to deal with parents, and this group is also amazing at making suggestions as well. So, I'm going to scroll back up here a second. And yes, Deleuze asked if I'm having children. I would love to be a dad, and so I'm sure Katie won't mind me saying that. Hopefully in the next couple of years we'll start a family. We're very excited for that. Right now we have cats, but I hope that kids are in our future. We both love kids, and I've wanted to be a dad since I can remember, so I can't wait to be a dad, for sure. Um, Beth Garducci. I have 6 kids. Hermit. I saw that and didn't see the hermit crabs. I was like, you have 6 kids? Wow. All right. At 7:34 p.m. Take Road. I know it's not true, but when the intrusions are 24/7, all I see is I have illness. Then I see them sad, and I want them to be happy all the time. So it's adjusting to the reality that I'm not causing that. Um, are you in treatment by chance? Um, just curious if you're in treatment or any type of uh, any type of programs or in self-help. Are you doing anything ERP, acceptance commitment therapy? I'd be curious, and I'm sure everybody here can relate to that. um, but again, it is not your responsibility to make sure that they're happy. It is your responsibility to take care of you and stop putting so much pressure on yourself. If they know you, they know what you're going through, they've invited you, you're going, and so you're going to resist and do the best you can, right, to not engage. And at the same time, I mean, this is sort of embracing discomfort in its own right, which is you have to be comfortable, potentially making the holidays less happy for your family, right? We can look at this like another exposure, which is, yeah, you may go and they may be sad to see you suffering at times or struggling at times, I should say. And can you be at peace with that? Can you be okay with that? Can you know that your family loves you and cares about you and actually would probably rather you be there? Hence the reason you're going. And can you be okay with that? Right? Because some of this is your discomfort around you feeling responsible for your family's emotions and feelings and making them feel bad during this time. So can we reframe that in a different way? Can we potentially like expect that they may feel sad or may feel feelings, and that's okay because we all have feelings and all have, and you don't need like we've all been to events where people are sad or unhappy and it has nothing to do with OCD, and we feel bad for that and want to make people feel better, and I mean it's a human experience too. But please don't put their happiness is not completely reliant on you. You're not responsible for their happiness 100%. Again, I think you just showing up will be, will make them very happy. Um, sorry, I was reading about the woke comments. Um, so Tekate wrote, oh, thanks, HG. I think we'll be great parents too. The cats are happy. So, um, my OCD is sexual obsessions. I had to take my clothes off in front of a doctor to get a physical health check. I said, sorry, I'm hyperventilating. I'm just struggling with my OCD. And she said, yeah, I think we're all OCD sometimes. I felt so stupid, but my anxiety has been causing awful palpitations and chest pain. So I had to get checked out. I understand. I'm straight. Yes, but she's not educated on psychological framework. I respect the profession, but I kind of irritated and extra anxious. So yeah, I think, are you able to access treatment and speak with a provider and somebody that specializes in exposure and response prevention and other modalities of treatment? I think that you're doing the best you can with the skills and tools at your disposal. So again, my advice to you, Tegate, at this time with the information that I have is just give yourself some space, give yourself some self-compassion, give yourself some love and grace. Try to be in the moment with family. When you have the thoughts, don't fight, try to push them away. Just let them be there. Try to recognize that it's OCD and come back to the moment. You're not a bad person. The thoughts don't make you a bad person. You're not your thoughts, right? It's just the disorder. And I know that's I'm not making light of just saying it's just the disorder. It's a pretty awful disorder, as we all can relate to. But you know, let's just take this on the surface for what it is, which is look what you're doing. That's a huge win. Go be with your family, however you are in that moment. And I know it's not going to be perfect. And I know it's very hard and challenging to even attempt some of the things that I'm suggesting, but even just, giving it 10% would be such a huge win. So again, we look forward to hearing how your trip is. And yeah, great point, Matt. Chris Tronson also hosts a family and loved one support groups. He recommends it. I recommend it. You can visit. There's a lot of support groups actually on the IOCDF website. Brendan can put a link to that. But the one that Chris and his mom Liz runs is excellent, and you can ask questions and get lots of insight on navigating family. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, doctors, unfortunately, doctors are people too, and doctors say really. So when I went to get my physical this last summer, I have a new primary, and I went there, and first of all, he was extremely stigmatizing because he dismissed every concern I had as OCD. Well, I see you have a history of OCD and health anxiety, so I hear what you're saying, but we're just going to assume it's that. It's like, pretty sure it's not that. Like, it didn't matter how much I told him that, I'm in maintenance and management and my OCD is fairly under control. It's just he dismissed everything. But the best part was as I was leaving, he says, when you go out, they're going to hand you a packet. I gave you some pretty good information in that packet if you want to take a look at it. So I open it up, and the first page at the title says, "How to manage your OCD at home." And I went, and I thought other words too that I can't say. I'm like, how to manage your and then it went on to like, you're experiencing OCD. OCD is when blah 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 blah. Try to breathe, eat healthy, get sleep, sacrifice a goat, drink celery juice. It was like I felt so stigmatized, and I'm like, oh my God, how do we educate? Like, it's hard enough to find a therapist that knows OCD, let alone, doctors and so forth. Fortunately, Lee in Australia, our dear friend, is a doctor and she knows about OCD. So, Lee, it's your responsibility to change the world. Get on that. And you have a head start. You're a day ahead. So, there you go. Um, oh, Lee, sorry. Lee just wrote, my psychologist said to me yesterday, my worry was about control and that wasn't my responsibility. It's like she took it away. We'll apply this in the future too. Yeah, I have a therapist that said, I was born with 10 billion neurons, but I didn't ask to have them. I didn't ask to be in control of all these neurons. So I'm just going to let them do their thing. I didn't ask for this responsibility, which I always find funny and think about. These are all great comments. Thank you so much. Ethan, do you still see a therapist weekly? I do. So I have seen my current therapist since 2011, which is almost 13 years. Yeah, 12 years, going on 13 years. Earlier this year, I had my 600th session with her. We don't focus on OCD for the most part. Um, she'll just say, you know what to do, so get on it if I'm struggling. Really, she's been phenomenal at helping me just navigate life post OCD. And what I mean by post OCD is, I still struggle. There's still issues at times, things like that. So, but post never having treatment and therapy, and then getting on the other side of that, and really, she's been a lifesaver. Just, I mean, our sessions mostly consist of navigating life and new experiences and things like that. When I got my bipolar diagnosis in 2018, she obviously helped me navigate that from a behavioral standpoint. And when OCD gets really loud, we definitely talk about it. I like going to an OCD specialist. I would say 90% of what we talk about isn't OCD specific or OCD related, but I feel good going to an OCD specialist because she can keep an eye on things. And if she notices something or notices behavior or hear me talking about something that, she'll call me out on it. But even just being reminded of skills and tools, sometimes, as you know, when you're wrapped in the moment, you lose objectivity and insight. It's really good to have that support system that can say, yeah, you might want to stop avoiding that, or you might want to stop smelling that, or you might want to stop touching that, or you might not want to look in the rear view, and all of those things. But yeah, I still see a therapist once a week. I'm on medication. I'm not going to say what medication I'm on. That's always the follow-up question. It's not important. It's such an individual thing. But after losing 30 years of my life to OCD and being in 3 psychiatric hospitals and being abused in psychiatric hospitals and being misdiagnosed for 17 years, I'm not messing around with this. So, I'm perfectly happy being in therapy. I actually really enjoy it. And also when you get to a place of maintenance and management with OCD, you don't have to work nearly as hard at it. And that's like the biggest. I love to talk about that because that's such a huge realization, is that when you're in treatment for the first time and you're fighting so hard every day, I think, and I did this, the first thing I asked myself is this what life is going to be like? Because this is exhausting. I don't know if I can do this. And the reality is, no, this is not what life is going to be like. As you engage in treatment, as you engage in ERP or ACT or ICBT or whatever it is, and you start to make that progress, you start to hit a point of exponential growth. And if you fully surrender to the process and really be willing to experience the uncertainty, then you really hit this last 10% of wellness where you can experience joy and serenity and like these words and things that I never thought. I'm not saying I'm joyous all the time. I'm not saying that I experience serenity all the time. But the fact that I've experienced serenity like 10 times in the last 13 years is awesome. But the reality of it is that you don't have to work that hard for the rest of your life. In fact, the majority of my life is my skills and tools feel very involuntary. So they just kind of kick in. Doesn't mean that when I'm having a hard time or struggling or there's good stress or bad stress in my life and my OCD kicks up, doesn't mean that I don't have to fight harder at times or work a little harder at it. But I honestly don't think, since I've gotten better, that I've had to work as hard as I worked in treatment when I was really sick, learning the process. So that's why, when people get discouraged because they hear that there's not a cure, that it's chronic, I always say, if this is chronic, I will take it because I feel like I'm cured. Doesn't matter that I have obsessive thoughts or that yesterday I was stuck on something or last week I talked about my fear of the broccoli that I ate. Like, my life is so different compared to where it was and what I'm doing now. That this is amazing, and I do hope there's a cure one day. But in the meantime, I will happily take this life. Sorry, I was reading comments and I was losing context. Beth Carducci at 7:42 p.m. wrote, "I have learned so much here. I was not accepting of the info at first because it was too scary to accept. Do the scary things and it will bring you closer to the recovery. Believe it." That is true. Hey, listen, accepting uncertainty is scary, but also uncertainty is really exciting. I mean, as ridiculous as a example this is, but when you buy a lottery ticket, the uncertainty is what makes it exciting. Like, are the numbers going to be my numbers? So I think embracing that uncertainty, for instance, Beth, the uncertainty that the test could be wrong or it was too quick or they didn't do it, your brother didn't do it right. Like, That's the kind of stuff we got to be willing to be scared of, and be willing to be okay with that fear. Because in doing that and like living the uncertain lifestyle, what are you looking at? Hi. Now you're looking at me. Say hi. Say hi. Okay. Um, living the uncertain lifestyle, that's the keys. That is the secret sauce. Um, I try to abide and live through the uncertain lifestyle. And that isn't just about uncertainty around my OCD. That's uncertainty about everything. Let's embrace it. Let's live into it. Let's lean into it. I love uncertainty to some extent because what's going to happen tomorrow? Is it am I going to get the call about a big job? Am I going to find out that some good news about a friend or a family member? As scary as uncertainty can be, there's so much exciting stuff about uncertainty as well. The fact that it's not written yet is it can be very exciting. So as scary as uncertainty can be, it can also be pretty wonderful. But living that uncertain lifestyle, being willing to cross the bridge when you get to it versus preparing to cross it whether you get to it or not. And that's the key, right? We spend so much time gearing up for that bridge crossing that may never happen, and then we just spent all this time getting ready to cross the bridge that we never cross, right? So are we prepared and willing to sit with the discomfort and trust the process that if and when we have to cross that bridge, that we will be able to manage, we will be able to navigate, we will have a support system in place, whatever your bridge is, whether it's contamination, getting sick, getting COVID, a death in the family, whatever it is, can we trust that if and when that happens, we can manage it? And until then, we're going to live our life in the present, in the best possible way that we can, not perfectly, imperfectly, but just be present in the now, not worrying about what I did, not worrying about what you're going to do, simply being here in this moment. And it's not easy. It's very challenging, but man, that is the place. That is the good stuff. Lee wrote, "You will love that I've started my medical OCD education extravaganza." I want to hear about that because that sounds super exciting. Um, Chad at 7:44 p.m. wrote, "Recently switched to a new primary care physician during our initial visit. We discussed OCD. She was actually knowledgeable on it. She knew what ERP is. It was super refreshing. We talked about it for a while. Left happy that I made the right call and switching to her." That's awesome, Chad. And that's really, really, it's really comforting to hear that there are some educated doctors out there, and hopefully the trend will continue because honestly, that's where the major changes are going to change. People go to a doctor before they go to a therapist, and if doctor can properly diagnose and then refer to a expert, to a specialist, that would be ideal. Beth, do exposures, be afraid, sit with the anxiety, you'll be able to realize you can't handle the situations. What? Guess what? It's true. That's at 7:45 p.m. I mean, I've said this before, but in my own journey, I discovered strength I didn't even think I had to begin. I don't even think I have it now. I did it, and I'm like, there's no way. We all have that. We all have some insane inner strength that is deep within inside us, and it will come out and it will kick ass. You just have to kind of allow it to. I know this. This isn't even like we might or some of you do. We all have it. We are all so insanely smart and creative and passionate and caring, and I mean this community is so amazing, and I truly believe with all my heart that everyone can get better and everyone can live the full life that they deserve. And I've always said from the beginning, the reason I advocate is if I can get better, you can too, and I stand by that. And so yeah, be afraid, be willing to have the anxiety. I mean, it's all so worth it. And the proof is always in the comments. Don't take my word for it. There are individuals here that have experienced, the lowest lows, worked their process, been through treatment, and come out better for it. And so, it does work. And on paper, OCD is one of the most treatable mental health conditions there is. So, there's lots of hope, and I know it's frustrating. I know it's exhausting, and I know treatment isn't as accessible as we'd like. It isn't affordable. It isn't. I always hesitate to say, have you reached out to a provider? Try to access treatment. I always feel so guilty saying that because you know, I know it's expensive. I know it's not accessible for everyone. And we are working so hard to change that. The IOCDF is working hard to change that. Advocates like myself and so many other advocates are trying to change that and create content and information to help guide and direct. So we will get there. But in the meantime, I'm so grateful for you all and that we have this group. Um, Efkin Trainwreck says, which of disorders is the worst? Only if you don't mind me asking, which of disorders is the worst? Maybe ask that again. I don't remember where I was in the conversation. Sorry. Nathan, are we having the group meeting the next 2 weeks? So no, unfortunately we're not. I think my next, hey, Brennan, when is you can put it in the private chat, but when is my next community conversation? So actually, Katie and I are going on our honeymoon on Thursday, and we will be gone over the holidays and be back early next year. Honeymoon, another thing that I never thought I would do in life, let alone get married. And if, by the way, if you don't think OCD is screaming at me right now about all the things that are going to happen on my honeymoon, it's been so loud the past few days because this is something I care about. This is something that I've been excited about. It's been planned for over, a year and a half. And so, yeah, my brain's really loud. Well, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And what if this happens? And what if that happens? And it's like, just like the wedding, I anticipate that it will pack a bag and come with me. I will deal with it with all the skills and tools that I know how, and I'm going to go and live my best life. And maybe my best life is an A plus, maybe it's a B minus, maybe it's a D on that day. I'm going to do the best I can, plan to have more good days than bad, hopefully all good days, but I don't care if it's messy or not. I'm going to go live my best life, whatever that looks like, and come back and ready to support and continue our work together. So I think I think you're right, Brennan. I think my next community conversation is January 23rd. Yeah. So January 23rd is when I'll be back. That's a long time. But I think the way the scheduling worked, yeah, I think you're correct. There's a diversity roundtable and some other stuff that came earlier. So my slot came up later in the month. Summer wrote, Ethan, I didn't know you had bipolar disorder. I do too. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I don't talk about it too much. But I'm happy, like on a next community conversation, to tell you my experience was finding out I had it, what led to the diagnosis, and managing it and so forth. I don't not talk about it because I'm hiding it. I just typically talk about OCD stuff on the IOCDF. We are closing in on time, so let me just quickly scroll down here. I'm so sorry if I haven't gotten to your questions, but I feel like this has been a really good conversation. Hopefully you have too. Let's see. I'm just quickly going through some comments, just seeing if I missed anything important. Though I appreciate all your comments. Beth, yes, Nathan. I was, as far as I know, I was born with OCD. My earliest memories are obsessive thoughts, honestly. So I see. She loves the funny hat, Selwyn. I see lists. Sorry, I'm apparently reading slower today. So I'm going to end with Matt Bannister's comment at 7:57 p.m., who always has really helpful things to say, as you all do. Matt at 7:57 p.m. wrote, "Value-driven exposures is the ultimate motivation to stare fear in the face and say, bring it on. As Katie O'Dunn says so brilliantly, you deserve to live a big, beautiful, awesome life. Let's reach toward our values and stick with the ick." That is really, really good advice, Matt. So thank you for that. And thank you so much, Stacy. I hope we'll have a good time on our honeymoon. Real quick, Efkin asked, which of your diagnosed disorders is the worst, most problematic in general? I mean, OCD was definitely the most disabling or interfering disorder that I had of sort of, I always call it a combo platter. Like I have my main dish and then 3 or 4 sides, and they didn't come with toys. So, I think that definitely, but at this point, none of them really dictate for the most part my functioning and the choices that I make. But I mean, I've talked to lots of folks, as I've advocated, and we have an amazing SIG of chronic illness and OCD and so forth and other things. And most of the folks that I've spoke to that have OCD and other mental and or physical illnesses typically say that OCD is the most painful. And if they can get rid of one, it would be the OCD. So don't want to speak for anybody, but at least those that I've talked to, that's been my experience. With that, thank you so much for being here. And thank you for spending your Tuesday night with us. Just some quick wrap up things, and then and also take a day. Thank you for sharing so much with you. I hope that you found support and lots of love and friendship. And Mindy, same. This group is incredible, and you hold me so accountable in my own life when I want to give in or make a compulsive decision or make a choice that isn't value driven. I always think about, I'm going to have to talk to all of you, and what do I want to say in that moment? And sometimes I do say, yeah, I compulse, but the majority of the time, gosh, advocacy is such a great medicine for OCD. And so as we head out of 2023 and into 2024, Lee will probably beat us to 2024 because she is in Australia and she's from the future. But otherwise, I just want to take a moment and say thank you. Thank you for your love, for your support, for your wisdom, for your insight, for your caring nature, for the way you support one another, the way you support me. And just, this community is phenomenal. And, if there are silver linings to the disorder, it's you. Right. And so I know for myself and the IOCDF, we are nothing without our community. And so I love that I'm dad. I will be your dad. I will be all of your dads. I am happy. We can just start off the gate with 60 kids. I'm in. So just from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for being just awesome human beings and inspirations. And I'm really excited for next year and all the amazing things we can do together and support. So just thank you from me for allowing me to be on here and supporting, and us to continue to support one another. So thank you. With that, I want to thank the IOCDF and Brennan behind the scenes. Some quick announcements. As always, tomorrow is a research roundtable starting at 12 p.m. Eastern. Also Thursday, oh my gosh, Mindy, we have a new live stream. It's on families. It's supporting our families. It is Thursday, December 14th at 7 p.m. Chris Bear from Unstuck, the kids OCD movie, will be hosting, along with Kim Vicenti, who is an IOCDF advocate. So I completely forgot that's happening on Thursday. So if you need further support on family and learning, they'll answer questions. It's a great live stream that just started last month. And that's it. Other than that, camp registration is open. You can register today, join a special event for youth with OCD and their families, and you can join or you can register by going to iocdf.org/camp. Be sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. As always, if you'd like to say hello and email me, though I won't be answering emails till I get back from my honeymoon, but please feel free to email me at justethan@iocdf.org. It's my email. It's private. No one reads it but me. So if you have additional questions, there's my email. Thank you, Brennan. If you have additional questions, comments, if you agreed with everything I said, if you didn't agree with any, it's a safe space to have a conversation. So with all of that, thank you for spending your Tuesday evening with me. Stay safe, stay vigilant, feel the feels. Don't let OCD off the hook. Have a beautiful holiday season, whatever you observe, and a happy New Year. We absolutely love you, and we'll see you next year. Have a good night.